Hello, I'm w.i.t.c.h.aholic. Welcome back to my channel. I made a video before about how sometimes authors do not explain the villain's motivations at all, and it just doesn't make sense why they're acting like this. So, this video, I'm going to talk about how some creative works, like the whole thing doesn't make sense, and how I'm shocked that they got popular, let alone published. For example, Wings Club. Now I talk a lot about which doesn't make sense, but every creative work has some things that don't make sense when you think about it, but it's not everything. But there's one show and some books I read that from the beginning, like when you think about it, like the whole premise is like, what? Someone, this really doesn't make sense, and yet this got published. As an example, so I'm going to talk about Wings Club and two books that I read. So Wings Club, which is also a show I like a lot. It is very popular, but the main idea is that Bloom not only discovers she's a fairy, she's the fairy of the dragon flame. And that is a spark from the fire that was used to create the magic universe. And she has that power. So you would think she'd be all powerful and invincible, right? But no, she's not. And even when the villains get weaker, like starting from season 5 with Tritanus, I mean, come on, he's only powerful because when his trident absorbs pollution, right? Like, you can't just knock it out of his hands or something. But even when the villains are weaker, and even though she has the other wings helping her, it always takes a season to defeat the villain. And the tricks aren't stated to be that powerful, and yet it always takes a season to defeat them. Even though after the first season they're have to usually work with the main villains. And it's just like, how? How did this get popular, let alone greenlit? Like, it just doesn't make sense. We find out, and Bloom finds out, that she has this power that literally created the universe. And yet she has such trouble, like defeating villains, which, by the way, the magic universe has a big problem with evil sorcerers wanting to, take over. I just find that hilarious. I mean, come on. And also, but especially since Walter was also created, he was created from the dragon's flame, from a spark, but still, he was able to like absorb magic and powerful spells, and he had to be frozen in the Omega dimension. And when he was freed by Icy, why on earth did they actually make them put Icy, the Witch of Ice, in the prison where you're frozen in ice? Oh my gosh. Like, everything doesn't make sense. But when Walter was freed, he was like a menace to the whole dimension, right? Is like everyone was afraid of him, but he has the same powers as Bloom, right? So shouldn't Bloom have had more luck, like fighting him? It's just, and then of course, even though they're supposed to have graduated, I think at the end of season 3, after that they were back in Althea, and then like no explanation given, and then of course season 8, that was, I think that was like a soft reboot because like they changed Icy's whole backstory. I mean, she didn't really have much of one to begin with, but she went from being a villain who wanted to conquer, the whole magic dimension so much times to being, someone who only wanted all this to free her cursed sister from a spell. And, like, what? Also, like, a witch came and took over her home planet, right? And of course, none of that was in the other seasons. So, like, that feels kind of odd that there's no one able to help the royal family of Diamond. And, like, seriously, also, this really happens a lot. If it's not conquering the magic universe, this villain's wanting to at least conquer a world. Like, shouldn't there be magical police? Like, what is going on? And like the Winks are like the only fairies capable of getting all these transformations and saving the universe? What? And even then, surely not. And like, surely, the students, who have been learning for a while, so like in their last year, maybe second to last year, surely they'd be able to help in some ways. Um, there's also, right, there's other, there's the specialists, right? I mean, like, they're like knights, sort of, right? But there's no, like, but we only see, like, the ones who are the girls' boyfriends. So, like, what's the point of that school even if these boys aren't, going on to help protect the magic universe? Like, why? By the way, what is the point of Red Fountain anyway? I don't think it says, but it seems to be like some sort of like military academy or something, and yet they're not like guarding, they're not sent to like guard planets or something, be on standby in case another evil sorcerer tries to take over. Like, it is just so weird. Like, I mean, it became pretty popular, but still, it's just so weird how this, again, about how even this got produced. That's one show. Really, really the only one I could think of, and the one that I watched. If you think of any others, I'd love to know. As for the two books, one is The First 15 Lives of Harry August. I forgot the author's name. And the idea is that Harry is one of the people born with the ability to be reincarnated each time he dies. But there's a twist. Each time they get reincarnated as like the same exact person, in the same timeline, to the same parents, everything. Now they do get their memories of their past lives, um, like starting when they're a few years old, so they can use that knowledge to make the next life be better. For example, if they know from a previous life the winner of a horse race or anything, they can use that to get money. But since, again, they're always time traveling, when they're reincarnated, it's like nothing matters. It's just, why? Why would you want to write that? There is no point at all. I mean, though, obviously there's a market for it, and it seemed to be doing well, but, just, if you are investing so much time to write a book, and I'm trying to write one myself, and I know, wow, just how crazy it can be, because we're not only trying to tell a story, it has to be something that people want to spend money on. Like, and of course it has to be told well. If you're spending all that time and effort, why would you write a book about something that is just so nonsensical and just makes everything pointless? Like, it's unique, but what is the point of having your characters reincarnate if, like, nothing, if it doesn't, like, do anything? Right? Like, maybe just have just either do reincarnation or time traveling. And then the third one is the Three Dark Crown series. Now, granted, I only read the first book, so some things could be explained later on, but even if that's the case, it's just nothing is really explained in the first one, and it's just so odd. So the plot is that there's this island, Fenburn, where magical people live. It seems that only people with magic live on this island, and then there's the mainland. So magic in this world is divided into three categories: elemental, just controlling fire, water, earth, air; poisoners, which can eat any poison and be fine; and naturalists, which can control plants and animals, and they get familiars. So, having elemental magic and naturalist, I don't know, is kind of like why, but I really like the poisoner part, because that is cool. That's very unique and cool, but it's like, again, like, why exactly? Like, basically all you can do is eat poison food and not get sick, which can be useful. And I think they could poison others. I did read it on the wiki, but it's like mostly, in the first book, it's all they eat poison food. They actually really like eating poison food, which is weird. But it's like that that's what you're making these characters only able to do. Like why? So anyway, there's always three triplet princesses born to the queen of the island, and they each have one of these powers. Um, Now, as soon as the triplets are born, the queen and her husband go to the mainland, and I guess stay there for the rest of their lives. And I think they're only rulers of the island, so it's not as I think they're not even ruling the mainland. Um, and then the triplets are taken care of too by a midwife in this cottage somewhere. They're not even raised in a palace. And then when they're six, they're each taken in by the family that's the most powerful, that has one of the powers, and that's on the council, and rules with them. And to decide who's going to be queen, when they're 16, the sisters have to fight each other to the death. And the last one standing is the queen. And then it just starts over whenever she has kids. And it's just what? What is the point of that? Again, it's a very interesting and unique concept, but it does nothing. What's even the point of having a royal family, right? I mean, in fact, always boys have to come to the mainland to court them. But even when they get married, I mean, they're going to leave the island as soon as their daughters are born. And again, I don't think they're even going to be the queen and king anymore on the mainland. So this doesn't really benefit them, and this is no way to rule a country. What's even the point of the monarchy with all this? I mean, yes, the queen rules until her children are born, but that, what if they're born a year after she takes the throne? And then she leaves, and whichever family is in power, they basically rule the island. So, what's the point of a monarchy? Again, this is no hatred at all towards the authors. And again, I did like these. It's just, why? If you're spending so much time and effort writing these, it's why would you make your book or show based on something that's just so nonsensical? I find it funny because when it comes to Miraculous Ladybug, that's the show that all the fans agree is just a mess, doesn't make sense. Fan fiction is better. That's a pretty good, decent show compared, at least in terms of plot. That's pretty good compared to Wings Club and these books. And the plot is actually improving. When it comes to Wings Club, it's every season someone is trying to take over the magic universe or get the ultimate power, of which there's a lot also, just lying around for an evil sorcerer to take it. and it doesn't seem to be that hard to take them. And somehow the most powerful fairy ever and her friends, who seem to be also, I mean, they were named the guardian fairies of their planets, so I guess all six of them were like the most powerful fairies, you know, in the magic dimension. But each season, they can't defeat the villain, even when the villains get pretty weak. Like in season 7, I mean, Kalshara's only power was to shapeshift, and it took a whole season to defeat her. And Berphilius, I mean, come on. So compared to that, Miraculous is very good. Is like maybe even one of the best shows. You know? Okay, anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on that because it is just very frustrating. Also, I am very proud of myself, so I do want to say that I'm actually now 22,000 words into my first draft, which is much more than I've ever gone. Also, because, I wanted to write a book for years, I could never really think of an idea. And then also, when I had one, it was inspired by fan fiction. So it took a while to get an idea that was similar but wasn't the same. And also an idea that fit the vision in my head and that I felt passionate about. Um, it was based on a Kingdom Hearts crossover with Witch, actually, which is part of a series. Is really cool. It's by Andrew K. 9000. I really recommend you read those books because I love them. But I mean, really, I could have just written down what I thought of in my head and then use that as an outline because you can't publish it, but you could write it. But anyway, it took me all this time to get an idea that I'm able to write. And, but I'm one of those authors who doesn't use outlines, so a lot of it really is just like ideas and thoughts that now I have to like rearrange into something coherent. But still, I got much further than I ever did. I've never met my goal of 1,000 words a day. I can usually do a few hundred. And so I just wanted to say that. And of course, if any of you are trying to write a book or thinking about it, you could totally ask me questions in the comments and I'll do my best to help. That is all, and I will see you later.